Everybody, welcome to my team selection video for Gameweek 28. This is Pranlir, also known as Lateriser 12, and I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys haven't checked out the pod that we did on Tuesday, I highly recommend you check it out because we did a high-level analysis of chip strategy and what we could be looking at in the future and what you need to do right now, which I think I'm going to try breaking down in this video in a succinct manner to help you guys with what decisions you guys need to make now or that are coming in the near future. And let's get right into it. Before we do that, just one thing, we at the FPL Wire are on the lookout for somebody to help us with video editing, cutting out our shorts, reels, editing our videos, making them more presentable, etc. as well. And you must know FPL because we don't want to handhold when we're doing this. So if you're somebody that's interested, reach out to us at fplwire@gmail.com and we look forward to looking at your applications. All right, quickly, let's move into what Gameweek 27 looked like. And the last 3 or 4 weeks, let's not lie, have been pretty good, pretty lucky for me. This week was decent as well. I got in points from Vissa and Boomo, which was nice. I got in a lucky 10-pointer from Clivert because Isak didn't show up. And I was between Vissa and Clivert all week. In fact, in the last 10-20 minutes before deadlines, I must have shifted them about 3 or 4 times. That came through. I made a risky move for Nkuku in because I'm like, you know what, I'm sitting at 600k. I don't want to miss out on a differential at who plays Southampton home, Leicester home, and Spurs at home in 3 of the next 4 game weeks. So I took a punt on Nkuku. It worked out with a 12-pointer, especially because Isak got injured. It worked out. So, FPL and the FPL gods and Jam rewarding a bit of aggressive FPL play. Not much between Palmer and Salah. Palmer was very, very unlucky to not get at least 2 or 3 returns, and I thought the decision was perfectly good. And in defense, I got clean sheet from Trent and Gabriel, 4 points from Munoz. He's an absolute legend. It's a shame that Munoz didn't do what he did at the start of the season because we at the FPL Wire have been big on Munoz since the beginning. What a player. As you can see, moved it to 470k right now. So, game week 22, which is 5 game weeks ago, I was at 1.3 million odd. Pretty much made a significant 800k jump odd. And it feels nice. It feels like there's a chance that we could get into 100k. It depends on how aggressive we are now. But let's see. What a fair few decisions and some important phase of play that we're entering right now. Now, that's what I'm going to try to discuss in a very succinct way. This video is on Friday and the deadline's on Saturday. So I'm going to try being concise with my views. The main thing is that the FA Cup quarterfinals, look at the games. Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Can you put your house on any of the teams to win? No. Bournemouth versus Man City. Bournemouth at home, informed team. Can you put your house on any of these teams to win? No. Brighton versus Forest. Can you put your house on any of these teams to win? No. They're all fairly evenly matched games. Outside of the Preston versus Villa game, they're all fairly evenly matched. So what that tells me is future planning. Just give me a second, mouth try. Future planning becomes incredibly difficult. So if you're somebody who's looking to wildcard now in game week 28 or 29, I would say drop the idea because you don't know who the winners are and hence you won't be able to predict who the future doublers are. So drop that idea and plan for a game week 31 wildcard or a game week 30 wildcard. Why I'm saying that is we have 28, then we have Europe, then we have game week 29, which is the blank week, then we have the international break, and then we have the quarterfinals, which are on the weekend, and midweek is game week 30. So the games are happening on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, and then Tuesday or Wednesday is game week 30. So we'll know the results of the quarterfinal winners, but will we know how they've scheduled by the time game week 30 commences? Probably not. There's a good chance we'll have that information by game week 31, which is Saturday. Which is why try planning for a game week 31 wildcard. So when you're making your moves now and you're planning to wildcard in game week 30, 31, decide whether, so look at the players that you're getting in for 28, 29, 30, and maybe 31. That's what I need to plan for. No, other thing is no guarantees of double game week 33 for all game week 34 blankers. Who are the game week 34 blankers? The guys, the FA Cup semifinals are in game week 34. So whoever wins and plays the FA Cup in game week 34, they will either move to double game week 33 or somewhere else, or they might not necessarily have a blank in game week 34 and the fixtures might get scheduled to the midweek of game week 34 with the exception, as you can see here, of those playing in Europe. So let's say Crystal Palace wins their game The game in Game Week 34 is against Arsenal. That game will need to get rescheduled. That game can't stay in Game Week 34. That's why that game will likely move to double Game Week 33. So all of this information we'll have after the blanks and doubles. What can you do now? You can firm up whether you want to free hit in Game Week 29 or not. And it depends on your current setup and current team structure for Game Week 29. But what's the opportunity cost of not free hitting in Game Week 29? There are primarily going to be 2 or 3 strategies in play. Let's say, and the main fixture that Truss already mentioned in his team selection video is Palace versus Fulham. What happens if Palace wins the game? If Palace wins the game, then they can't play in Game Week 34. So it's very likely that their double moves to Game Week 33. Now we know, it's Crystal Palace. We know that Crystal Palace has a double in Game Week 32 as well. They will have a double in Game Week 32 as well as Game Week 33. And which means you will probably look to wildcard in 30 or 31. And you won't look to use a free hit chip in 33 because you'll have 3 Palace team players. So you can plan around that because Palace have a double in 32 and 33. Which means you might use the free hit chip in Game Week 34 or a future week. Now the other flip side is, let's say Fulham win the game against Palace. Then Fulham have a game in 34 against Southampton. Now this game could easily move to the midweek of Game Week 34. If the Fulham game stays in 34 and doesn't move to... So Fulham will move. What will happen is then Palace will definitely have a game in 34. So what will happen is Newcastle and Palace, both teams that double in Game Week 32 and 34, if Fulham win, what that means is that you can carry forward your Newcastle and Palace players on your wildcard in Game Week 32 as well as Game Week 34, which means that there's a good chance you might free hit in Game Week 33. This is sort of the opportunity cost of not free hitting in Game Week 29, but if your team is not set up for a free hit in 29, if your team is not set up to play 10, 11 players in 29, then go for it. And then figure out 30, 31, 32, 33 based on how the results and the chips fall. Because it's all right. You don't always have to go for doublers. I mean, the biggest decision people are going to have in double Game Week 33 is that Liverpool... Where's Liverpool? Liverpool play Leicester away. Biggest game of the season for them. Salah could score any doubler worth their salt. So, lots of decisions. And then they have good fixtures around that. They've got West Ham at home in 32 and Spurs at home in 33. So, your bench boost, etc. Basically, decide whether you want to free hit or not in 29 and then figure out the rest later. I just wanted to tell you the opportunity cost. And if you're somebody that's likely free hitting in 29, it means you're loaded up on Newcastle and Palace. If you're loaded up on Newcastle, you probably lost 2 assets. Gordon has a red card, Hall's out for the season. That becomes a bit tricky. Don't be afraid to revisit and pivot your plans based on injuries that have happened and based on the new information and news that's coming in. But just see if, let's say you're somebody who has Isak, Mateta, Munoz and Eze. Then you could look to bench boost in 32. But you could do that if you don't have players from Everton. If you have Pickford, it's fine. If you have a second playing keeper, that's good for you for bench boost 32. If you have a double Brentford attack like mine, then bench boost 32 becomes not very attractive. But if you have players from popular teams like Villa, Brighton, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Forest, all of them have good fixtures right now. Even City, decent fixture. Arsenal, decent fixture. If you have got Bournemouth, decent fixture. If you got your 13, 14 players from these teams, you can consider a bench boost in 32, then free hit in 33, and then wildcard after Game Week 33. So you decide whether you want to do a late wildcard. The decision you need to make is whether you're going to wildcard in 30, 31 or you're going to wildcard later. The one common link between the two that I want to point out, I think I'm doing a decent job of making this pretty succinct, and I'm hoping I'm not confusing you guys because I want to talk about the decisions you need to make right now. Is that people that wildcard in 34, 35 are primarily going to be heavy on City. City have Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Fulham. Great end to the season. And they're going to be heavy on Aston Villa, who've got Fulham at home, Spurs at home. They're going to be heavy on other teams as well, but they're going to load up on these teams. And that works in our favor because the likeliest team to have a double in Game Week 33, likeliest teams are Man City and Aston Villa. Why? Because Man City need to beat Bournemouth or Aston Villa need to beat Preston for that game to shift to double Game Week 33, which means it will give a double to both Aston Villa and Man City. And these are two teams that have a decent end to the season anyway. So that's what you anchor your early wildcard on if you're not looking to wildcard later in Game Week 34 or 35. There will be other teams that are very attractive towards the end of the season, but a few other things that are quite interesting that I noticed. Uh, Forest and Brentford are two teams that we might be interested towards the end of the season. And the popular teams, Liverpool have Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Brighton away, and we don't know what their motivation is going to look like. Arsenal have got Bournemouth at home, Liverpool away, Newcastle, Southampton, Newcastle United, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Chelsea. All these popular teams, they feature in the bottom 7 of the fixture ticker as things stand. So these popular teams aren't going to have very strong fixtures, and we don't know what their motivation is going to be like based on the title race, based on their involvement in Europe towards the end of the season. So it's going to be making for an interesting period the last 4 or 5 game weeks. Basically thinking that if you wildcard early, make sure you have a double or triple City. You have Aston Villa attackers in place, because while Aston Villa are not good defensively, they've got Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs. So decent fixtures for attackers. That's at rotation central if they continue to be involved in Europe, because they beat Club Brugge 3-1. So we'll see what happens. From a planning perspective, Arsenal won 7-1. So if Palace win their FA Cup tie, Arsenal double becomes pretty much nailed on, because Arsenal are going to likely have participation in Europe here because they're 7-1 up. That double becomes pretty much guaranteed in 33, just some info. But all of this is later. Like I said, you decide whether you're going to free hit in 29 or not. You see if the 32 free hit bench boost is an opportunity for you. And let's say you're planning towards bench boost 32. If the chips fall in a certain way in the quarterfinals, then don't be afraid to pivot. So the plan that you need to have for a bench boost 32 needs to be a loose plan. You need to be open to change. You need to be flexible. And the third thing is you need to decide whether once the chips fall in game week after in the FA Cup quarterfinals, you need to decide whether you're going to wildcard early in 30-31 or you're going to wildcard later. I think if you're heavier on Newcastle and Palace players at the moment, then you are leaning towards a late wildcard. But again, be open to the information that comes to us after the FA Cup quarterfinals. I hope that covers everything that you need to from a decision standpoint for now. All right. Okay. Now coming to a lot of damage was done. Cunha got injured. Cunha had a red card. He's missing minimum 3 game weeks. It could be 4 5 game weeks. Hall's out for the season as well. So who are we looking at replacements for Cunha and Hall? Let's talk about Cunha first. Obvious person you need to be looking at. I'm looking at 31 as a time frame because I'm looking at an early wildcard, or we don't know what the 33 doubles are going to look like. So that's why I'm looking at the short-term picture, and a lot of us are good planning to wildcard in 30-31. Haaland is somebody you need to make a decision on because they have Brighton at home, Leicester home, United away. Worth noting though that on the Sunday, they have a tough FA Cup game against Bournemouth. And then 3 or 4 days later, they have an easy home game against Leicester. It helps that City are very motivated because it's not easy. The 4th place position for City in the Champions League is not nailed on. You know, Chelsea are pressing them, Bournemouth are pressing them. So motivation for Bournemouth, Chelsea and City is going to be high for a while. That's the thing. Will there be rotation here? I would be worried about rotation for everybody but Haaland. I think he'll be fine. That's a decision you need to make, and Brighton have improved defensively. They're in the top 6 for XGC in the last 6 games. So the decision is whether you want to go Haaland. That means you need to sacrifice Isak or Salah or Palmer or Trent. So that's a decision. If you're making the Haaland decision, you make it now, you make it next week. It's difficult to make the decision now because it's difficult to lose Salah, who's having Southampton at home. It's difficult to lose Trent, who's having Southampton at home. It's difficult to lose Palmer, who's having Leicester at home in 28. So if you're having Haaland, try to get by. Mikolenko plays Wolves away. Without Cunha, that's a decent fixture. Try to get by this week. And then decide what you want to do next week. Or, if you're looking for a like-for-like replacement, if you don't hold Chris Wood, great option. City, yes, defensively better, but after that they got Ipswich, United, Villa. Wood's fine. Who are the other options? Evan Nielsen is an option. If you're punty, they've got the best fixtures. Spurs away, Brentford home, Ipswich home, West Ham away. That said, we don't know what his minutes are going to look like because he's just back from injury. He played the 70-odd minutes in the FA Cup. But Clivert got rested, so we don't know what's going to happen. So if you want more assurance, you could move to Evan Nielsen and Gameweek 29 because the fixtures are great. Brentford at home, Ipswich at home, West Ham away. I mean, Beto could have scored a hat-trick against Brentford. That's how poor defensively Brentford are. I think Bournemouth have goals in them against the Brentford defense. If you really want to force the issue, you can punt on Evan Nielsen, but know that his minutes right now are not secure. But you should guess that they should improve. Then there is Strand Larson, good fixtures, but I don't know how much you want to rely on him. If he's somebody that enabling Haaland for you without losing any of the big guys, fair enough. Then why not go for Beto? But the Beto thing is that he's got only 2 good fixtures, Wolves and West Ham now. But after that, Liverpool and Arsenal are tough in 30 and 31. Mateta owners hold Mateta because while he's likely going to miss Ipswich, they say that they're going to try to get him fit for the quarterfinals, which means he's going to be good for Southampton and Brighton. So hold Mateta. Outside of that, it's Marmoush, again punty because of minutes, dodginess. The first game this weekend is against Forest, so hopefully we get some team news. If you're looking at a 1-week punt, then Darwin Núñez is an option because he came on as a sub in the Champions League game, which PSG completely dominated, by the way. But Alisson, man, what a player. So that's a decent 1-week punt shout. Not many options. The best option looks like Wood to me, and the punty options are Evan Nielsen and Marmoush. And the cheaper options are Strand Larson and Beto. Is there anybody else? Delap, if you fancy him. I'm not a big fan of Crystal Palace away, Forest, Bournemouth as fixtures for Delap. Solanke's back in the frame, but he got injured again. There's really no. Chris Wood is the obvious option. I wish one of the 3 strikers of Brighton were dodgy because Fulham, City, Villa, Palace, good fixtures for Brighton, who've improved massively. I think they're in the top 5 or top 6 for XG in the last 6 as well. So they've improved. Chelsea, unfortunately, don't have a striker. Jackson will be back in 30, maybe. So there's nobody else. Hall replacements, you see if you want to spend on somebody like Guardiola, but know that there could be a rotation threat here. Look at Kushanov, 5 million. Could be an option. I think he's very good, and I think he's first choice in that City defense right now. Cheap defenders that everybody's looking at because of the fixtures: Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Ipswich, Aït-Nouri, or Spurs away, Brentford, Ipswich, West Ham, Kirkes. I think the fixtures are slightly better for Wolves, but the defense is better for Bournemouth. So you make your decision there. There's no other Hall replacements. If you're somebody who can afford to get enough players in 29 anyway, then Munoz has Ipswich at home and Southampton away in 28 and 30. If you can afford to bench him in 29, he's also a great replacement for Hall. So that's the decision that you have to make. Right. Now, what do I plan on doing? And where is my head at with the benching decision? As you can see, I have a big benching decision. I'm benching Marmoush at the moment, but if you get a leak, I think I'm not going to bench Salah, Palmer, and Kuku, Bumo, Clivert. I don't think I'm going to bench Vissa. I think the benching decision for me is between Isak and Marmoush because of Isak's rumored lack of fitness, etc. But he did media duties, etc. as well. So we don't know whether he's going to be fit, not fit. I'll see what House says, but Eddie Howe is not going to tell us anything. If we get a leak, I might be tempted to bench Isak because maybe he sees limited minutes. We don't know, but they're still maybe in the hunt for Europe. I don't know. As things stand, I'm benching Marmoush. I'll wait for leaks and I'll see what the murmurs on Isak are like. I'm going to bench one of Isak or Marmoush, I think. And between Salah and Palmer, so last week, I was 70-80% certain I was captaining Palmer and 25% certain I was captaining Salah. This week, I was 60% certain I was captaining Salah and 40% certain I'm captaining Palmer. What are the pros and cons? Salah had 86 minutes. Arne Slot admitted that they were lucky. And they would be lucky even to come out of that game with a draw. So he knows that the second game is very important. So some key players who look tired in the game against PSG might be rested. But will Salah be rested? Gakpo's injury is a doubt at the moment. He wasn't even in the squad against PSG. So the starting front three is likely going to be 3 of Salah, Darwin, Diaz, and Jota. I think Jota is going to be rested. It very likely could be Diaz, Darwin, and Salah. Maybe there's some chance about Chiesa, there's some chance about Elliott, but I think Salah starts. Though it's not out of the question that it's 70, 80 minutes for Salah, but that's game state dependent. If Liverpool are 3-0 up at halftime, that means Salah's involved in 2 goals and he gets subbed in the 60th minute. If Liverpool are 1-0 up at halftime, that means Salah gets 80-85 minutes. And the further goals Liverpool make, he'll have high involvement. One thing from a very psychological standpoint, which is something I like to address when I'm talking about players and teams, is Salah looked distraught. He knew that it was a poor performance against PSG. And he's the kind of player that plays on his ego. When a poor performance happens, when a player like Salah gets subbed off in the 85th minute, that's after yesterday, makes me lean towards Salah. That said, even Leicester, right? Palmer is a wounded tiger too. Like he's aware that he's not scored in a while. He's posted on Instagram about it. All his teammates are gonna find him. And he's the kind of player who's just got explosion in his genes. It's a class player. So go either way. I'm open to either. It's very likely you can say that Palmer also played 70 minutes, 72 minutes midweek, by the way, but he didn't do much. But the team was second hand for Chelsea. Salah is likely 70 minutes, 75 minutes. Palmer's likely 90 minutes. Make your decision. At the moment, I am literally 50-50. If I was to be honest, I'm 55 Salah, 45 Palmer at the moment. But let's see where we are tomorrow. And the reason is also Southampton are considerably worse than Leicester, but both are terrible teams and expecting 3 goals from both Southampton and Leicester. So let's see where we are. One quote that I want to cite, which by the by, Arnie Slot mentioned Salah, is that a big moment for him, I can understand. A big moment for Elliot. I can understand that he's sometimes frustrated by the playing time he gets. He's a good player. He's showed at Liverpool already that he's a good player. I wonder if Elliot plays, but he's more a Soberslai position player. But he's in competition for players that hardly take off. So Soberslai is always one that just keeps on going. He always scores goals, but he's so important for us with all the running he does. See, he says he's in competition with the players that I hardly take off. And yeah, Mo Salah, I think, is quite key for everyone as well. So he's always mentioning that I don't take off these players. And he mentioned a week ago that because of the rest, these players are good enough to play 4 or 5 games in a period of 2.5 weeks. And he mentioned that Elliot has to keep doing it in a limited playing time. So maybe Salah, I don't think he'll get benched. But again, it's a game tomorrow. Let's see if we have leaks or news tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. But whatever you do, don't sell Trent, don't sell Salah. The upside for these players in these games, unless we get confirmed team news, is very, very high. Don't make the decision on them right now. So that's where I am with this week. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you guys did find this video useful, hit like and subscribe. Give me feedback on what I can do to improve. I've tried not try to focus too much on my team because I try to answer more generic questions about Cunha, Isak replacements, giving you an overview of the ecosystem in front of you and hopefully help you make some decisions. Shout out to Sleeper as well. If you are somebody that hasn't played Sleeper, you have to predict 18 games correctly this month. That's it. Only 18 games, whether a team is going to win, draw, or lose. And you could be in the chance to win a Premier League kit. If you've joined our Patreon or YouTube membership, you get to join our Discord league. With the top 3 in our Discord league, who download Sleeper and play the correct prediction game, win a Premier League kit of their choice every month. So shout out to Sleeper, shout out to Fantasy Football Scout, and good luck this week, guys. And what I'll do is if I've made a decision close to deadline in terms of who I'm captaining, as usual, I will let you guys know in my comments in this video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.